In this talk we're going to deal with EDI, the Electronic Data Interchange, and eBusiness payments. First of all, EDI and how it works. Manufacturing companies may face a logistical problem of inventory control, warehousing and distribution. So production businesses, generally speaking, hold stocks, they distribute the stocks, they must meet customer orders. So production-based companies have this particular issue. Now it's common for specialist managers to be appointed to handle the supply chain, to deal with the incomings into the stores, the components, the raw materials, the semi-processed goods within the company, and finally the completed product which goes out the other end. So generally speaking, medium-sized companies and larger have specialist managers who deal with this issue. The complete supply chain may involve outside suppliers and intermediaries. So it may be the case that the company who has dealt with, let's say, a supplier for many years will have built up a relationship with that supplier and trust the supplier, so that the supplier and the company almost become integrated in the context of these particular components or raw materials or whatever. So it may be possible for two companies to collaborate to a very large extent regarding the supply or the delivery of certain components because of a long history of trading and trust which has developed between the two companies. Also, in parallel to the physical supply chain, there is an information flow that also needs monitoring and constant attention. It's not just the delivery of the components and the raw materials. There is the orders and the paperwork and the information, the contacts between the two companies that needs to be monitored and needs to be controlled so that everyone knows exactly what's required, when it's required, what was said, and so on and so on. So there is an information flow that runs in parallel to the physical delivery of goods and services from one company to the other. This means that information flows and physical channels of operation in a complex environment is a specialist task. So the information flows can be complex. They may involve several managers, they may involve different departments, and it's easy to get confused about what has been said, what orders have been placed. There needs to be organization, perhaps all documentation running through one central office and processed centrally in one company, dealing with a central office in a second company. But certainly the information flows are very important to be monitored and controlled. Now how it works? Well, the process may be as follows. With manufacturing we have raw materials and manufacturing processes. We have semi-completed goods, we have components, we have all the issues surrounding the production and processing of raw materials and semi-completed goods into the final product. Then we've got the distribution and intermediations, the transport that's required, the storage, and how space is used within the business. The business perhaps has a factory unit, but it needs to store its raw materials, its components and its finished goods within that space, as well as making the components and making the final product. There's also other services that need to be taken into account: advertising, promotions, market research, market testing and forecasting. These are all vital processes in collecting and analyzing information, making what's happening intelligible to the management. And there may be retailing, merchandising, inventory management, reorder management and forward planning. The company may engage in selling the product to the final consumer, or it may sell it to intermediaries who place large orders and then break the stock, break the bulk, and distribute it to warehouses or whatever. But we can see from this slide that it's quite a complex process, and all of it requires information as well as the flows of physical goods throughout the system. Now, a simplified model of how these processes may fit together could be EDI facilitates the flow of information and constantly a smooth supply chain, and I suppose I should say consequently a smooth supply chain. So the EDI is the flow of information that enables the physical chain to work. Without the information, the supply chain can't work. So the supply chain needs information, needs good quality information, and the information should be timely. It should arrive so as to enable the processes to take place, and also ensure the sequences, the amounts, the promises that have been made, all of these are in line with an efficient working practice. EDI also facilitates total quality management and just-in-time policies. This is a way in which the business may become customer-driven. It's difficult often to have a just-in-time policy. In theory, the products are made just in time to be delivered. Well, generally speaking, depends on location, it depends on the complexities of the supply chain. Sometimes some stock have to be held by the retailer or by the wholesaler or by somebody in the supply chain. It's difficult to imagine it just happening. Obviously in a restaurant, just in time happens. We go in, we order a meal, and the meal is cooked and delivered to us. That's just in time. Total quality management, making sure that every part of the supply chain is run efficiently and to good standards. EDI certainly facilitates it, because with a good computer system where information is able to flow efficiently from one computer, from one network in one company to another network or computer or system of computers in another company, and the information is intelligible on both sides. That means that the two companies are up to date, they're up to speed, they know exactly what they're doing, they know what's required, and they're able to plan and be efficient about their use of resources given the information that they're getting from EDI. So EDI is a structured computer-to-computer system that enables the transfer of information. That's what EDI is. It enables computers to talk, understand what the information that's been sent. So the protocols are agreed, the standards are agreed, the information is sent from one company to the other. They're able to read the information, understand it, and integrate that into their planning process so that there is overall efficiency. The two companies are working together. It may be the case we have more than two companies. I talk about two companies, but it could be many companies all working together, but working to the same sets of information that are coming out. And each company is supplying information about itself, about its how its stock levels are and what it's processing at the moment, what it's doing, and so it's sharing information with the other companies, and in this way there is more effective planning and a better service to the customer at the end. So EDI enables the transfer of business information or business transactions between companies, and this also includes banks and government agencies. So EDI can cover the whole range of commercial activities. But if companies are dealing with the government, the government agencies may send the information in electronic format. It's understood by the computer system that receives it within the company. Any updates are sent and the information is updated as it goes along. So databases could be updated. Spreadsheets can be sent. Specialist information, drawings, graphics, all sorts of information can be sent, and this is all part and parcel of the EDI process, the electronic data interchange. Now, a very simplified model of how these processes may fit together. EDI processes must have the following characteristics. The exchange of information must be structured so that communication may take place. It's pointless sending information if the person on the other end can't read it. It's not information for a start, it's data, but it needs to be understood at the other end. Information is meaningful, or should be meaningful, to both ends. So each party to the process must have compatible software. There must be an agreement about the type of information that's sent, the format the information is sent in, so that each party at the end of the process can receive the information, open it, understand it, and perhaps respond to it. And the data must be machine readable. It should not require rekeying. The data, when it's sent, should not need extra clerical work. It shouldn't need a computer operator to sit in front of a terminal and retype the data or reformat the data. When the data was originally set up in company A, that was the setup of the data. It was sent from company A, and when company B receives it, they should open it, and it should be in a suitable format for them to work with. It should not require further work. Further work is a waste. Now, who can best use EDI? Well, the following types of company can probably best use EDIs. Companies with large volumes of supplies and suppliers. When companies have a very complex set of requirements for supplies from different companies and so on. So it's a lot of information the company's receiving and sending out, and they can best use EDI because the computers can best handle information, sort it out and make it intelligible. And companies where there is a need for careful tracking of supplies because of perhaps dangerous goods, for example chemicals. When there must be careful tracking of supplies, then EDI is useful because EDI can track where the goods are and monitor the status of the goods, and so EDI is extremely useful. When company A tells company B it's sending dangerous goods, one, company A knows when it's sending it, and B, company B knows when it's going to receive it. Both ends are ready. But also it could apply to perishable goods, for example vegetables or fruit, but any perishable good. So it's important that there is an efficient information system that facilitates the physical system, the movement of the goods. But companies where there is a large volume of paperwork involved in the process, import and export companies also, it's important that EDI perhaps operates globally, so that an exporting company in Hong Kong can send information to a company in London, and the company in London not only will have the bill of lading and will have copies of all of this included, but they will have notes from the senders about what's in the shipment and issues to watch out for, and just general information. So it's extremely useful in that sense. And companies where there is some emphasis on just-in-time, car companies, for example, they are very efficient in trying to get all the components moving smoothly together onto the production line so that the cars can be assembled and off the line in a very fast time. But all of that coordination involves EDI. It involves the use of computers to sequence the components from the component manufacturers and suppliers through delivery, in through stores, checking through stores, out onto the shop floor, ready for it to be assembled. And all of that could be within a very, very short space of time, because the companies don't want to keep stocks. They don't want to operate stores. Stores hold raw materials and components which are idle and therefore are costing money. Now, value-added networks. Well, the complexity of EDI processes depends on the complexity of the supply chain. It goes without saying, the more complex the supply chain, the more complex the EDI system, but also the more suitable EDI is for that purpose. The process may include value-added networks. VAN. A VAN is a network where data is transmitted and accepted by businesses in various formats that are converted into an acceptable format and can be used by the business receiving the data. So a VAN can receive information in various formats and then translate it into information that's used within the business. Translate it into the standard that's used within the business. So a VAN is probably a looser way of looking at EDI. In this case, the information is, the formats of the information may vary between the sender and the receiver, but they must be in a format that can be translated into a useful format by the receiver. So the receiver gets the information down the network and is then able to process that information electronically and very fast into something that it can use. And the managers within the business can then access that information, understand it, make decisions, and respond to it. VANs may also be used as a storage medium for data. A value-added network may store information and archive past orders and past experiences. Very useful in the case of disputes or of disagreements, but also useful because sometimes orders and processes that are current match what happened in the past. And if there was a good experience in the past, then why not bring up past practices and look at what happened in the past? It almost like in law it sets a precedent. It's good practice, so why not use it again? This management of information adds value by permitting a better management of time. Better management of information, better management of time. Managers don't have to process a lot of information and try and get agreements about every bit. It's all agreed. The standards are agreed. They're agreed in advance, and it's just simply a question of the sender formatting the requirements, sending it, transferring it from one computer system to the receiving company's computer system, and then being interpreted by the managers. The managers themselves do not have to enter the data or check the data or whatever. If there is an issue, the computer systems are set so that the information coming in will be processed by the receiving computers and made accessible to the managers. It's particularly useful when there are significant time differences separating trading partners, companies operating in different sides of the world. When one set of people are asleep, the other set are working. Well, the computers can then still process information and send it. Computers don't have to sleep. So it's particularly useful. Vans operate independently of businesses and as an intermediary in the EDI process. So they're intermediary. Vans can, as I said, they can translate what one system requires, translated because it knows the standards that operating system and that software requires. And it links with the software on the receiving set of computers and can then translate the information. So it's an intermediary. It makes sure everything's working, that the two sets of computers are talking to each other. And of course, when the managers go to work, the information is ready for them. It's sitting on the desktop, waiting to be processed, waiting for decisions to be made, waiting for the whole thing to be activated by the manager's decisions. The vans, they store and send information and data in forms that are reacceptable by businesses receiving the data. So they are capable of, as I said, repackaging the data if need be, but they repackage it in a way that makes it suitable for receipt. They facilitate, they oil the whole system, they facilitate the system. They route the data and act as consultancy points for new businesses. So anybody joining that network will know what the protocols are, what the standards are, what the procedures are. Now back to EDI standards. Well, EDI depends on the existence and acceptance of specific EDI standards and protocols. So EDI only works if the participating organizations agree about the standards and the protocols. If they don't, obviously the data can't flow. The data can't move between the two systems. So there must be an agreement. It has a hierarchy of communications levels, each of which has different accepted standards and protocols. So there may be hierarchy of communications levels. There may be communications levels for the stores manager. There may be communications levels for the production director. Different levels, and the information that EDI transmits and the protocols should be able to sort out where the information, where decisions have to be made, how much information, or how many components or how much material is required, and when should it be delivered, and what discounts will apply. And these are, some of them are quite big decisions. Others are simply saying we're about to deliver X tons of whatever, and the stores manager must move and make space and have facility to receive that amount. So there is a communications infrastructure level. The communications infrastructure level is who deals with the information, where does the information flow to, is the information, when it's received by the computer system, is it broken up into packages and sent to different recipients within the organization, as I said, to the production director, to the stores manager, to whoever. Where does the information flow? This is the system that permits communications to happen. So the communications infrastructure level could also flow through different media, telephone, satellite, electronic exchanges, etc. And the information, once it's received, may be routed on via other networks to the appropriate people. It may be that the information, when it's received, is not broken up. It goes to a designated manager whose responsibility it is to see that each of the necessary recipients of the information receives it and understands it and agrees. So it may be it goes to the company, and the company then is responsible for breaking up the information into the subsections, going to the stores, to the production manager, to whoever. It goes to the various departmental heads and so on. So they all know what's about to happen. Now, it could be that that's done by a manager, or it could be that the computer system, in a very sophisticated manner, is able to communicate directly with each of the managers within the organization. So, as I said, EDI standards usually involve data being broken down into packages for transmission and then reassembled at the receiver end. It may be sent also. EDI packages may be sent from one company by various managers within that company and assembled and sent as one package. Or it could be that individual managers within one company are able to send information to the other company, and the information is updated and assembled in the second company, the receiving company. There are different models that may be used, but the end product is that the two companies are communicating effectively. Now, the advantages and disadvantages of EDI, starting with the advantages. There's an ability to maintain control over the movement of materials. That's essential. The companies know exactly what materials are ordered, when they're going to be delivered, when they're going to be received. There's control over the movement of materials. It helps in the implementation of JIT policies, of just-in-time policies. It helps to reduce holding stocks because it gets rid of the uncertainty. The companies have promised delivery on a certain date so that the other company doesn't have to hold excessive stocks because it doesn't know when it's going to receive the next delivery. So it reduces labour costs. Overall, there's less labour required because the information enables the two companies to communicate effectively. So there's more efficiency. It reduces routine tasks and therefore reduces errors. When the same information has to be entered several times, the chances are there's going to be typing errors or mistakes, or quantities could be transposed. Instead of 58 tons, there could be 85 tons. So it reduces errors and therefore reduces the amount of time spent checking on the orders and checking what's received and double checking, and it's done once. It's done once and it's accurate, and the information is used from that one input by the two companies or by several companies. It reduces stock holding and accounts receivable. Well, it reduces stock holding because the companies know for certain when the next delivery is going to be made. So they can time the delivery to almost when they just run out of the previous stock. So it's a just-in-time calculation. And it reduces the risk of doing that. So it reduces stock holding. The stores can hold less stocks. There's better cash flow due to effective management of trade creditors. Well, there's more information in the system. There's more information about the value of the stock held. There's more information about the the trade creditors. There's more information held about all aspects of the business, just about, so that the management is better able to manage, so the whole business runs more efficiently. And there is better customer service because there's more information. Customers who place orders can be informed when they will receive the product and the nature of the product, the specifications of the product, and all of these can be matched up with the customer requirements. So there's a better customer service that is achievable. There's more certainty about the process because information is flowing about every part, the components to make the product, the stock levels, the information, the design, the processes of assembly, the delivery. There's more information, and therefore the customer is kept informed and the customer has a better service. Now, the disadvantages of EDI. Well, there's reduced personal contact between vendor and consumer and customer. Reduced contact because there's no need to have the contact. The information is refined and it's good information that enables the business to work efficiently, so that there is no need to involve the customer and to consult with the customer. The customer knows what the product is, it knows when the product will be delivered, it knows the terms of the delivery and so on. So there's not much need to deal with the customer. That could be a bad thing. It could be a bad thing in the sense that customers like to be consulted and customers like to be the center of the picture. The customers are the ones placing the order and they like to enjoy that status. And also could be useful for repeat orders or for extra orders. The more contact with customers, generally speaking, the better. Sometimes people don't want to use the technology. Sometimes people in the business don't want to use it. They don't want to keep up to date with the requirements of the system. So there may be staff turnover. There may be staff issues and issues revolving around training, the need for training and the need for retraining, constant retraining, and the motivation of people to deal with computer systems rather than in the old days we would go and see somebody and have a chat about whatever and make an agreement. Well, those days have gone. Now the computers efficiently link to each other and it's sorted within milliseconds. What in the olden days may have taken half a day to agree. So there is continuous need for training programs. There's a need to all the time to keep the staff up to date and keep them motivated and keep them keen to use the system and learn more about the systems. And also there's a need to make sure that the companies that are participating in this EDI program, that they are on board, that they are equally committed and want to continue their work with the business and want to continue to develop the EDI system and continue to use it. So it's important that there is communications outside of the EDI framework, that the managers in one business talk to the managers in the other business and make sure there is commitment and that they agree on the use of the technology and that it will run into the future. Now, these are some of the issues involved in the use of electronic data interchange in business and also the use of value-added networks. And that's all I'm going to deal with in this session, so I'm going to leave it at that and say thank you for watching.